Recruiting-ish. Web3. World-class podcast. Let's get it, let's go. The topics of discussion you cannot get from another. Opportunities in Web3, we got you covered. Metaintro, been dope. Gotta thank you for the love and support that you give it. Keep it coming. We going up in jet speeds, interviews with the crews, making moves. Let's see, it's a brand new world of NFTs. Join in Recruiting-ish podcast, yes please. Join in Recruiting-ish podcast, yes please. Metaintro does not give financial advice. Information provided by Metaintro is intended to be used and must be used for informational purposes only. Always do your own research on the companies that you apply to and the opportunities that you invest in.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Recruiting-ish podcast. I'm Alex, crypto recruiter, here with Lacey from the Metaintro team. Say what's up.
GM, what's up? How's it going?
We're bringing back GM.
That was such an awkward intro.
What do you say? It's like when you introduce yourself, it's like, I don't know. And everybody's coming back, hopefully, return listeners, so they know who we are. But yeah, good morning, WAGME. I don't know. Do people still say that?
I don't know.
Maybe that's dead.
WAGME died.
I think WAGME died with all that happened last year, but maybe it'll get picked back up or somebody will make another term. But let us know in the comments what that is so we can start the episode next time with the proper Web3 terminology.
Great. Yeah, I saw a meme yesterday that had like the stick figure trying to figure out which GM is appropriate. Is it GM in all lowercase or GM in all caps? I didn't look through the comments though to see what the opinions were. And he also, the person that tweeted that also did not repost to give us, the audience, the results.
I see. Well, at least, man, I remember back in like peak bull market, you'd be in a Discord community and it would just be like 3,000 GMs every morning that you would just have to like cycle through. So I'm glad that has stopped. Hopefully that won't come back. It was nice, I guess, at first, but got a little crazy there.
It did get crazy. So, well, we're back today with more exciting call-ins, which is very, very exciting. Now I said exciting 3 times. I don't know. Maybe it's the caffeine today.
Lacey's on her 4th cup of espresso coffee here today. That's Web3 normal at this point.
It is. It is normal. And it's normal depending on how early you get up in the day. So, I'm up early. Yes, this is my 3rd cup of coffee, but I think it's okay given how early I woke up. So anyways, we have some great call-ins. Is that what we want to call it on the show? Call-ins, voice memos, questions from the audience.
I like call-ins. I think it's
call-ins.
I don't know. It makes me feel like I'm on like a formal talk show versus just a podcast. So call-ins, but again, let us know. We're soliciting feedback for all parts of this podcast. So if you've got cool terminology for any of this, let us know, please. We don't want to, we want to be very in the mix with our terminology and what we're doing.
Yes, absolutely. So for this episode, we had a ton of great call-ins that came primarily from our Discord stages that we hosted this past week. So if you're thinking, hey, I want to have my questions answered on the amazing Recruiting-ish podcast, how do I do it, Lacey and Alex? Where do I go? The answer has turned out to be Metaintro's Discord stages. So once a week, we've been hosting Discord stages where you can come up, ask your questions. We record it. We give you a very high-level answer just to point you in the right direction, and then say to you, but we'll dive in on the podcast and get a little bit deeper into the answers for your questions. So that's every Wednesday in our Discord. You can find the link below in the show notes, or if you're watching this on YouTube, down below in the description.
Definitely. Yeah. Thank you to everybody who joined that. It sounded like we got a tremendous response. I mean, we've almost had too much, so we're trying to get, a few questions answered in each episode. Probably do some dedicated episode around, similar topics, and we can dive in. And again, the Discord is a resource in so many ways. So that's just one of the tons of opportunities there, from job postings to networking to fun stuff, some good mornings in there from time to time. Really cool community. So shout out to them. Shout out to Metaintro for building that and helping get some content for us.
And before we dive in, just some quick call outs to stuff that's happening in our ecosystem. I almost, we were talking about it before the recording of this podcast, is like, what are we calling this? So consensus is we're calling this a Web3 job tour. We're going out to a few different conventions over the next about 90 days, where we'll be hosting the job fairs for those conventions. And the first one up is IWB in Washington, D.C. at the end of March. We'll be hosting their job fair. Super excited to be able to bring in some speakers, some incredible employers that are still hiring in this bear market. And if you have the opportunity to come in person and network and meet your potential employer, tickets are also below in the show notes, as well as the description if you're watching on YouTube. We have some other great events that are coming up. We'll be at NFT Miami Fest in Atlanta, and a few others that we'll be announcing soon, which will be listed in the event calendar in our Discord. So with all that said, are you ready to dive in?
Yeah, let's go. Play the first one. Let's see what we got.
So my question, a little background for college. I study integrated marketing communications. I've been involved in the Web3 space for around a year now. Over my past internships, I had one with Horizon Media where they have a new department called Chapter and Verse that's entirely devoted to Web3, and I got to help them kind of explain Web3 to different departments and brands and stuff. And then past fall, I was in LA doing a program with my school where we get an internship and do credits there, and I ended up working with Venice Music, who actually dwells in Web3, helping artists release on kind of catalog and different music NFT platforms. So right now I'm going to graduate in May, and I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to possibly getting a job in community management. So I was just wondering about any possible tips. Been applying to some put out. I think I applied to a couple of the Trust Wallets ones and the one from FAM. So I guess maybe a more specific question besides for just general tips about applying for community manager roles. Would you recommend also reaching out to the founders or new people, or let me know the tech stacks? Yeah.
All right. So setup for the question was awesome. I appreciate, given kind of the context backstory on experience. I think we can now talk about kind of your particular example, and then as well broadly. Sounds like been in some Web3 internships, roles, but looking to get into full-time community mods. It seems like a consistent question. A community mod, cool job. Lacey, any insight, tips based on this question?
To it being a cool job?
Well, that and how to seems like how to kind of bridge the gap, right? It sounds like he's having trouble, I guess, landing that job. It seems like he's been applying, he's got experience, but may not be getting past the application.
Yeah. I think right now with the market, and just given what I see in our Discord community, there's not a ton of community mod jobs out there, and community mod jobs that are well paid at a living wage. And sounds like he's based in the US, so living wage in the US. And what's surprising to me is that he's going for community mod jobs versus going for marketing roles, social media management roles, things that are more complementary to what he did in his internships. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I think community mod is just one part of that aspect of marketing and building community and communications and even PR and some of this auxiliary stuff that sounds like he's done in integrated marketing. That's a lot of different channels, Discord and community being one of those. So I mean, I'd challenge you to just maybe expand that, right? Whether that's, like you said, social media management, content creation, or just general marketing. I think in this market, the job of just being a community mod, I don't know if it exists because people are tightening budgets and they may not have the ability to just pay somebody just to manage community. Probably a role that's been absorbed into, a other role within the organization, especially a startup, right? Like that might now be 4 different roles within it. So, I mean, it's a cool role. I'd say keep trying for it, but don't limit it just to community mod. Do some of the other kind of parts and see what you find.
Yeah. And it sounds like he's looking for his first full-time role as well. He's like done his internships. He's ready to leap full-time into the space. I wish I had like a list of the music Web3 companies that are hiring. Just based on his experience, I think it'd be great to like continue down that path. It's a great like niche. And I'm sure that some of the large agencies based here in LA have Web3 departments or are looking to dive into Web3. They're looking for experts in the space that can help take the business into the ecosystem. So biggest piece of advice for this individual would definitely be to continue looking at music Web3 companies because your resume already screams music and Web3. I would keep going down it.
Yeah, no, I think the one that comes to mind is a pretty cool company, started by Blau, the DJ, and somebody else, but Royal doing music NFTs. Reach out to them, right? I think they're a pretty connected team. If you've got connections, maybe in the industry, I know it's a pretty tight knit group, especially out in LA. Maybe reach out to them, the founders, recruiting team, as well as like the big companies, like you mentioned, like Universal's probably got some Web3 stuff going on. Try to network. I think that's the biggest part with LA and just getting a job. Super competitive. So you really got to network and kind of build yourself and brand yourself to kind of stand out. So don't give up. I mean, getting the first job is tough, and this is a tough market. The only other thing I'd say is, loop back to some of the places that you internship for. You got experience, you got relationships. Maybe they are looking for someone full time, or they might know somebody. And it's a really good, as long as you had a good internship. If it was a bad internship, keep moving. But, feel free to loop back with the people in your network. It's something you want to do as you continue to grow.
I was reading The Milk Road this morning. Do you read that?
This came up on that last podcast.
Did this come up already? Have we talked about this already?
This came up. So it's not on. I got way too many subscriptions for crypto newsletters. It's not one I've subscribed to
you don't
yet,
need it.
but I did look it up after that episode because I felt a little newsletter shamed. So
yeah. Well, I was doing my morning scroll, reading through the newsletter, and Napster's back, and Napster's back in today's form. I was reading like the history of Napster and how many times they've been acquired and like who's integrated with them and yada, 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 which is actually a ton more than like I feel like you or I would have just known. And they made their recent move, which is Napster Ventures. And their first venture investment was into Mint Songs. So my guess is Mint Songs is probably hiring. So if you're listening to this, I would take a look and head to their website, reach out to the founders, see if they're looking for entry-level like marketing, social media management positions. I think they raised quite a bit. So they definitely have the capital to spend on talent.
Nice. Yeah, Napster. Every time I hear Napster, I just think of Justin Timberlake from The Social Network playing Sean Parker. So I'm glad his dream company lived on. And it's funny to see brands that you used or heard of as a kid now come back around so many years later. I'm like dating myself on age, but we'll see what they do.
Ready for the second?
Ready for the second. All right.
I'm Divine, and I'm a Web3 content writer. So I just graduated from school, studying actuarial science. and I just started writing in Web3, I think 4 months ago. So I'm still kind of trying to, build myself and know what I'm doing. So for now, I'm just writing threads on Twitter, writing Medium articles, trying to put myself out there, applying for jobs. So what's your advice for like content writer just starting out? How do you think can actually build up and build our skills? Because most of the times I want to apply to jobs, it's always must have 2 years experience, 1 year plus experience, and it's like there's no opportunity for people that just started up.
My question.
So sorry, these run together through Telegram, so apologize for the run on. But Web3 copywriter, kind of written content, getting started, having trouble getting past kind of these applications with maybe higher level expectations. Any initial thoughts?
This is such a consistent issue that I feel like we talk about, which is, hey, I'm trying to break into the Web3 space and can't because there's no entry level positions. And I get it. On one hand, you have companies who are building this like Web3 company for the first time, Web3 part of their business for the first time, and you need senior level experts in the business to make it run and operate, and then you bring on those entry level people. And I think we're at a point within our ecosystem where we're still at level 1. And while you have all of these companies preaching, oh, you should make the career transition into Web3, apply to our jobs. Oh, wait, none of the jobs we have are entry level. And so you hear consistently this frustration from individuals who are like, I'm ready to make the jump. I want to make the jump, but I can't because all of these job descriptions are requiring years of experience because they're building expert level teams. And so I feel for her. It must be frustrating. And then especially with writing. Alex, have you ever hired a writer?
I have. When I was doing creative hiring, and I've actually got a couple copywriter at a senior level, so this doesn't help. Again, we're guilty of this in terms of like the years of experience. So this hits close to home. And it's tough, right? I mean, it's just like content or graphic design. It's like everybody's writing style is different. Companies look for specific stuff. And again, if you're just getting started, right, you might have a really great voice and really great writing, but what's to say you're any less of a great writer than someone with 2 years? And it kind of pigeonholes you.
Yeah. What do you look for in a writer?
I think it depends. I mean, I think like I'll use this current example for what I'm looking for right now. It's totally finance copy related. So they have to have, B2C experience. So writing to a customer who is, about to or signing up for a finance product. So investment, products, banking, credit cards, different stuff like that is what we look for. And the reason for that is because there's regulation around what you can say, what you can't say in certain copy and marketing. So it's like you have to have that experience and you have to have a pretty high level because it is scrutinized. But like back when I was at Coinbase, we'd hire writers on a freelance basis where it was more for like events or just, to get exposure, where it was just people that could write, short form content that could be across platforms or channels where it attracts people into different funnels. So writing's like very particular. Like I feel like as a good writer, you got to know how to like adapt your writing style, which is why, Medium or Substack, I think is a great platform to just push out content and push out as much as you can across different industries so that, hopefully somebody sees it through Twitter or LinkedIn and it kind of gets picked up. And it gives you the ability to push out, your independent content where before it was just like blog posts throughout random places. So if you're doing that, keep doing that and keep pushing out content because hopefully one day somebody will see it and pick you up for some of these opportunities.
You know what she should do? Crazy idea. She should start like a series on Medium or Substack about Web3 recruiters and then reach out to those Web3 recruiters to interview them, write a great piece on them, give it to them, and think of that as almost your like job application or your submission to get in front of that recruiter. I had somebody do that to me once where great writer, she reached out to me. She was writing an article on something about in the Web3 space, maybe like founders in the Web3 space. She sent it to me when it was done. Amazing. And then she was like, oh, by the way, if you're ever hiring, like, here's my portfolio, my resume, you've seen my work, please think of me. And now, if we were to hire a writer, she would probably be the first person that I'd reach out to.
That's an awesome idea. I mean, you can do that with recruiters, founders,
Totally.
creative directors. I mean, get in touch with the people that are actually, doing the hiring and looking through it. I think that's a great idea. I mean, if I'm happy to volunteer as the first pass, if you are interested in doing this, hopefully it's a good article. But I'm happy to, any piece is good publicity, I guess. But yeah, I mean, content, right? I think you got to do a lot of it. And when you first get started, it takes a lot just to get consistent and to get, enough content to share. But, this podcast is a great example. Our first one, we didn't think was very great. We're now still working through it. There's always something we can do, but it's starting to gain some traction. So don't lose hope. Writing's tough, but if you love it, you'll end up finding something that is exciting for sure. And apply to that damn job that has 2 years of experience, because I don't know how many writers have 2 years of crypto specific experience. So they're probably flexible. And if you got good work, they'll drop that requirement. This is where we put in like the sound effects.
This is where I'm snapping. For those that are listening, I'm snapping in the background. Like, yes, preach.
Next purchase is a soundboard. I think we had some claps on one of the platforms.
We did. Yeah, Riverside was great. And shout out to them for making an awesome product. However, the export quality was not good. And so if you're from Riverside and you're listening to this podcast, can you please fix that feature? Because then we'll come back and we'd be happy to pay. But in the meantime, we're on Squadcast because the quality has been great all around, except for Squadcast is missing the soundboard. So whoever wants to build it first, someone either fix the export feature or somebody build the audio board.
Indeed. And we need plugins so we can play these so it doesn't look like we're just doing it through the phone. That's the next, we're working on it. We're getting there.
We had one other question that came in as text because he was too shy to record it. Okay. Two other questions that came in through our Discord. First question, which is actually similar to the question that we just got, says, I'm shy, so I'll drop my question now. Orlando here. Just want to know what to do to distinguish myself from other copywriters in the Web3 space. What's a good way to distinguish yourself, like as a writer?
I mean, I can give advice, but I caveat it by saying I'm not a writer. So it's from my perspective and I guess what I've seen. But don't let that just be the only thing. Like, solicit this from other copywriters you come across or you respect. Like, feel free to ask this across the network and see what you find. But again, I think talking back to like consistency and creativity and content, I think is super important. I think, the great thing about social media or, having people put out written form is you can do it. It's cheap. It's free in most places. It reaches a lot of audience, but there's also a ton of it out there. So I think, finding your voice, staying consistent to that, writing about stuff you're interested in, I think is super important. As well as, like we've talked about in past episodes, branding yourself, like staying consistent across Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, Medium, Substack. Tell people who you are as a writer and then build content that matches that. What do you think?
Yeah, it's tough. I'm not a copywriter, so I'm not in it every day. I don't know the struggles like firsthand, if you will, distinguishing yourself from other copywriters in this space. But just like you said, personal branding probably does go a really long way. So, for instance, your crypto Twitter profile, does it say that you're a copywriter? Is your favorite article pinned to the top of your feed? Do you have your banner saying that you're a copywriter. Does the link in your bio go back to your publications? Doing those simple things probably go a long way, especially given that a lot of recruiters look at Twitter. Same goes for LinkedIn. You can feature, there's that article feature section on your LinkedIn. You should put all of your articles that you're super proud of in that section. And taking advantage of the features that LinkedIn does give you to promote yourself and to distinguish yourself from other individuals that are applying to the same jobs that you are. Take advantage of those. Spend some time, go through your LinkedIn, see if you can highlight some of those articles that you've written. But that would probably be my biggest piece of advice. But it's probably tough because not only do you have to distinguish yourself, you have to get people to read your work.
Yeah, I think that's the toughest part right now with TikTok and short form content. Like it's hard to get someone to read just one sentence, let alone a paragraph or an entire article. So, some of it might be find ways to drive traffic back through those. Like Lacey mentioned with your personal profiles, or maybe you make TikToks or comment on TikToks to try to get stuff, or just, clicks and views, and hopefully a following that'll keep coming back. But try new stuff. I think that's the coolest thing about creative content is, you could try something, it might not work, you try something else. But don't give up. You got to always keep changing. Like you said, hopefully it'll build that following and then you'll be like a stellar copywriter.
And last question, Prakash asked, what are the tech stacks used for developing metaverses or virtual spaces? My guess for this is that this is a developer that's looking to break into the space, and they're curious about what stack that they should learn first. What do you think?
Okay, I'll do this again by saying I'm not a developer. My technical working knowledge is probably lighter than most. What I've seen most crypto metaverse, companies looking for in developers is either a combination of Solidity, Rust is another one that I think's come up a bunch. Front-end language, everybody's got different stuff. Java I think is pretty popular, but I'd say Solidity is in high demand. If you have experience, writing in Solidity and building projects, or even just taking a course, I think there's a ton of opportunity there. And it's a very high paying job, just because there's not a lot of people that do it. But you'd probably know better than I would in terms of, no.
I mean, maybe this question.
We should ask Brad. Brad would.
We should. All right, Brad, if you're listening, what's the first stack that somebody should learn if they're trying to make the transition into Web3? We'll have his answer next week on the next podcast.
Yeah, or we'll phone a friend.
Or we'll call him.
We'll patch him into this.
We'll patch
put
him
a
in.
recording right now, and if it's working, there it is. But
great, I'll have him do it. I'll ask him to send in a recording.
Perfect.
Well, great questions today. This was awesome. I love that we're able to dive into different roles within Web3, which is great. I think it sheds light on all of the different types of opportunities that are in this space, aside from just technical opportunities.
Yeah, no, it's awesome to hear what's going on in the job market. I mean, me as a recruiter, I see things through one lens. You as a founder, you see things through another. We're interested to see what's going on, like boots on the ground, challenges, hurdles. Send us your wins, right? Like I think a cool part of the community with Metaintro Discord is, if you do land a job, maybe send a recording and tell us what that job is. Like it's not always about hurdles. It's about kind of some of the success too. So we're working through this. This is a new format. We'll still have some guests on. If you're interested in being a guest, let us know. We're also maybe looking for a third co-host here. So if you've got some interest in being a podcaster or podcast co-host, let us know. We're always looking and excited to keep going with this format.
Yeah, thanks to everybody for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.
See ya.